So, very good morning to all of you. The topic which has been given to me is to speak on National Viral Hepatitis Control Program in India. Where are we now? This slide, I think many previous speakers have also shared, but I just wanted to tell you that this was a big study which was done by WHO, and they accumulated the data of the deaths caused by several infectious diseases in 2015-16, and they felt the need to look into the matter of viral hepatitis, as it could be a matter of concern in the year 2040 by steeply rising graph of increasing deaths by them, as compared to the in other infections like tuberculosis, HIV, and malaria. And that is why the need to work on viral hepatitis globally, they raise concern. They gave these major targets. They said that this was discussed in last two presentations also, that we need to work on hepatitis B and C. Each country has been given these targets that at least by 2020, they should reduce new cases by 30% and 90% reduction by the year 2030. Number of deaths caused by them, they should be reduced to 10% by the year 2020 and 65% reduction in the year 20 and 30. So these are the global health sector strategy for control of viral hepatitis. This was shared by, I think, the Department of Epidemiology. But again, I want to say that what are the targets this National Viral Hepatitis Program has to look in by each country, and India is a signatory to achieving these targets. The baseline investigation shows that in HBV vaccination coverage, the globally people are fine. Prevention of mother-to-child transmission, which we measure by administration of birth dose within 12 hours of birth, was 39%, but this should be increased to 50% and 90% by 2020 and 2030 in each country. Blood safety and injection safety were okay, but slightly they should be improved. What lagged, or which is of a concern, is the diagnosis and treatment for hepatitis B and C. You can see that in 2015, only 9% were diagnosed and 8% for 20% for HCV, and very little. So now this is the situation we have to pep up. We have to really speed up. This is again various globally showing the Western Pacific data, Southeast Asian data, and European data. What we lack definitely is diagnosis. For B and C, you can see there is a lot of decline in the diagnosis being offered. So you really have to ramp up your diagnostic facilities. You really have to screen a lot and put them to cascade of care in both B and C. What is the situation of India? We know that all 5 hepatitis viruses are there, although D in the last decade has shown very, very low prevalence. Even in our institute, we have done a study and we found very less cases of hepatitis D. A and E are hyperendemic, and they cause a lot of burden, 10 to 30% of acute hepatitis cases, and here it is 10 to 40%. But what, as it has been discussed in last to last presentation, is the matter of concern is B and C. We really do not know what is the exact prevalence, because there are hardly any good geographical studies, statewide studies done. We have a varied prevalence of B ranging from 1 to 12% in certain states and certain geographical sectors of India. Average prevalence we call in India is 3 to 4%. For C also, the state-wise good prevalence studies have not been done, and we say that overall prevalence is less than 2%, but it varies from state to state. So what India needed, definitely, we felt that it was a well-documented action plan to control viral hepatitis. This was the need of the hour. So ILBS did a very good pivotal role under the leadership of our director. We actually mobilized WHO. We were the WHO Collaborative Center, first of its kinds of viral hepatitis and liver diseases. We actually persuaded Government of India through WHO by doing consecutive technical meets We started our efforts way back before the global data came in 2015-16, from 2014, and we emphasized that we should move towards development. So these are the 4 consultative meetings we did in 2014, 15, 16, and 17. And finally, in the year 2018, we could persuade the government, and it was launched and at the national level on 2018. These are the guidelines which were made, and ILBS has a huge role along with the Government of India in making these guidelines and these algorithms, and they are all, the PDFs are available at the site of NCDC, Government of India, for treating. So the first ever guidelines on testing for viral hepatitis is unique out of them, and involvement of B and C. So what are the aims of Indian National Viral Hepatitis Control Program? First, as I told you, we really have to tackle the problem of hepatitis C. We have to eliminate by 2030. We have to reduce morbidity associated with B and C. We also have to look in the morbidity and mortality due to A and E. So our Indian National Viral Hepatitis Control Program is not only restricted to hepatitis C, but all 4 viruses, C, B, A, and E, are there, which are involved in this National Viral Hepatitis Control Program. There are certain objectives. Awareness is one of them, yes, but to provide early diagnosis and management of viral hepatitis at all level of healthcare. So this is one thing which we're really going to emphasize, is that the healthcare, diagnostic and treatment should be at the sub-district levels. It should be at the peripheral health centers level. There should be standard diagnostic and treatment protocols so that the management of hepatitis and its complication is done in a standard, uniform manner. And then we have to encourage the data entry. So this is another objective, to develop viral hepatitis information and management system and maintain a registry of persons who are affected by it. What is the organization structure which has been proposed? Now, this program, we started very actively in 2019. Various groups met, the guidelines were made, the fund allocation came, several states got the fund also. But unfortunately, in the year 2020, from the beginning, because of the pandemic of COVID, the activities were slightly delayed, and they are delayed till now in several states. However, this program will be controlled majorly by National Health Mission. All the money will be there through the National Health Mission. There is a National Program Steering Committee. ILBS has a role in this National Program Steering Committee. There will be a management unit at the National for National Viral Hepatitis, which is at NCDC New Delhi. They have made several technical resource group, like the treatment resource group, the surveillance resource group, and the lab diagnostics resource group. And ILBS also has a role, members in these resource groups. So this is at the national level, all the money and funding. This will go down to each state, and there the funding will go to the state health mission. Each state has to work on their own program in the form of making a program committee. They have to identify where your management unit will sit, who all will be there depending upon the prevalence in your state, as where you are going to make model treatment centers, where you're going to make a state lab, whether you're going to do all the work on your own, or where you're going to outsource certain tests. So all this provision. So what I want to show you through this structure is that, unlike the National AIDS Control or Malaria Control, the previous programs in the country, this is an open program. They are just going to have funds, give you funds. They have made guidelines. They are going to give you money so that you make, as per the guidelines, these sites and utilize them the way you want in your state. So this kind of openness, flexibility is there in this National Viral Hepatitis Program. And it is the responsibility of each state to now show the ownership, demonstrate the work, and start moving towards the goals of WHO elimination. The key focus of this program are going to be, as again and again I'm telling you, what we lack is diagnosis and treatment. So we are going to stress only on diagnosis and treatment. Screening will be offered by the simple serological tests for viral hepatitis. I'll be telling you later. All active infection will be confirmed by molecular test. So this is a provision provided of the performance of the molecular test. The lab are very highly incapacitated. They are not as functional in India, what the national level studies have been done. So lab capacity building and making sure that they give you a quality assured NAT testing reports is going to be a major focus. Treatment of uncomplicated cases like non-cirrhotic will be at the drug dispensing sites, that is the health wellness centers. These are the Ayushman centers, which are created by about 1.2 lakh by the government of India. So they are targeting that these should be involved for dispensing treatment. Complicated cases treatment and management, however, should be restricted to only the model treatment centers which we make in the states, and referral and linkages to the other programs. So what is the current practices? Whom are actually, now what are the practices that we are testing? So we are only testing for viral hepatitis whenever a person comes for the organ, for BNC, not for A&E there also. Patients who come up were found to be abnormal liver function test, we offer them BNC, and centers like ILBS also do A&E screening, but not all. Healthcare workers after a needle stick injury are offered this testing, and newborns who are born to only HbA1c positive are given screening for hepatitis B. However, the change in this national program is that it is going to be free for all. So we are going to have a person, so the entry into this program is going to be a patient himself can walk in as a voluntary testing. Any medical profession can refer that he looks like a suspicious case, so the screening may be done. So then the testing will be not limited to these 4 categories. It will be testing for all, even voluntary testing, patient-initiated own testing will be there in this program. What are the methods which are recommended for using in this national program? The sample for testing is blood. There are 2 types of tests, which I said, serological test and molecular test, which are going to be used in this program. In serological test, the option is there. You can use rapid diagnostic or card test, which are based on the flow through or lateral flow card test, which gives you results within 30 minutes. Or if your lab has got the setup to look for enzyme immune assays, like antigen antibody complexes by the methodology, whatever is available, ELISA, CLIA, you can do. The confirmation of infection will be done by the molecular labs, which are known as nucleic acid testing labs or PCR labs. Qualitative, quantitative, anything you can use. However, quantitative is the one which most of the labs will prefer. Genotyping is optional, and drug resistance testing is not included in the program guidelines. They've also opened the option that you can also go for point of care of test wherever at the district or the sub-district levels. Point of care of tests are those tests which the results come very fast and they can be put near to the site of the patient care. Usually the results are available between 30 to 60 minutes. We divide these point of care of tests into 2, serological, which I showed you, are the rapid card test. You give results within half an hour. There are certain small devices where all this, which are cartridge-based nucleic acid testing, CB-NAT. Here in this small cartridge, you can see there are 4 channels of this. All the steps of RT-PCR, PCR only are carried out. So it is the PCR-based assay. Only thing is that all the steps are done here, not in separate rooms, and the results come within 1 to 1.5 hours. The most common instrument which we use, which is commercially available, is by GeneXpert. So GeneXpert, CB-NAT, they're same thing. There are other companies also like GeneDrive, TrueNAT, which are also based on PCR testing by a single cartridge. So the difference between a conventional lab setup and a molecular lab setup, a point of care molecular lab setup, is that in a conventional lab setup, you require 3 designated area or rooms for extraction, amplification, and detection. And the batch testing is done in a batches of 12 to 24. So the delay will be there. For hepatitis B and C, minimum 4 to 5 visits of the patient to the hospital will be needed. However, if we encourage the setup of such point of care molecular testing, the individual sample access, I told you, into the cartridges can be done. So the patient visits to the hospital and to this program can be minimized. So these are the wide range of flexibility and options suggested by this national program that each lab can do. They've also suggested that if you are not having your own testing site or molecular testing, so you can have alternate sampling. I told you blood and serum and plasma, but the transportation of serum and plasma requires a cold chain. So you can also collect the blood on a simple Whatman like dried blood spots. This we have done, tested, we have published also. It works well for serology as well as molecular. There are certain newer conventions which are coming, like dried plasma spots instead of the blood. There is a filter, so the plasma also gets blotted. So it's a more faster and quicker. You can also try in your state such options. Oral fluid testing for self-testing can also be encouraged. However, we only have one OraQuick test available, and it is not right now available in India. So the program, National Viral Hepatitis Program, gives you a wide range of options that, depending upon the prevalence in your state, how you're going to tackle, you can use all these varieties of testing methodologies. You can set up labs wherever you want, but you have to encourage screening and putting a lot of patient onto the care. So this is the model for diagnosis. The diagnosis will be at all levels. At primary health center, we are just giving serological testing, but from the district level, you can have access to PCR. You can connect to a state lab. You can do on your own. State lab will have all RT-PCR, ELISA, CLIA. However, the higher tests like sequencing, drug resistance, or quality assurance will be only done by the Center of Lab Excellence, which will be at the center. One lab only for this COE. This is the proposed model for treatment. The treatment will be given, as I said, at all levels, sub-district level, district hospitals, medical colleges, and tertiary centers. You can make any of them as the treatment sites and treatment centers. However, the model treatment center should be made only the medical colleges and tertiary centers who can manage the complicated cases of B and C as well as A and E. The district's other treatment centers should be just sufficient. They should have a medicine physician who can look after the treatment for uncomplicated cases of B and C and should refer the complicated cases to a tertiary center. So the treatment dispensation can be done at the sub-district, but the management of complicated cases as well as other hepatitis like A and E should be done. You can make medical colleges, tertiary centers as a model treatment centers. Now, what are the challenges we anticipate? So we actually, when the budget has come, several states have got the budget. And when we were in the pipeline of thinking what to do, the troubleshoots, the COVID pandemic came. One of the most important challenges we anticipate is how, when a person enters on his own or through a local medical practitioners, how you're going to link him, and you have to make sure that he continues to remain in your national. So for this, a lot of work of data entry operators and peer support is needed, because once you enroll a patient into your registry, then make sure that he is given continued care. For C, there is just a short duration, but for B, keeping him into continuous care would be a problem we are facing. And I think the states need to work upon this linkage and continuity. Another major challenge which we are anticipating is that people will come up, will get this serological screening done, and they will not come for the molecular, giving blood for the molecular, because this would take, if you're doing by RDT, it will take 1 hour time for a report to release, half an hour testing, and then half an hour for report. But you lose a lot of patients when you're not collecting parallel. So whether reflex blood for DNA and RNA to be collected or not, and how to then call the patient. So you need more and more active microbiology lab setup. We should have point of care molecule, because this is one thing, the largest drop we are anticipating will occur, that the serological testing has been done, but he never came for a RNA DNA. Result communication, we have learned from this COVID pandemic how important it is for a report. So I think we're going to use all these email and connectivity and things, so that there is no point if you have done screening, you have done a viral load, and the result is not communicated, and patient is finally, the aim is to put him on treatment, and he is not started on treatment. Treatment initiation and then follow-up, which I said in hepatitis B is going to be a challenge, and the management of complicated cases. In Delhi, we are sitting with such sophisticated labs, but when we are thinking of certain states, how these cases will be managed, this is going to be an important challenge we anticipate, and each state is going to work up. So you're going to have certain teething problems, and I'm sure each state will learn by the experiences in first year, second year, and going to do a troubleshoot for this program. Now, discussing about the guidelines, this I'm not going to say because Dr. Serene has already explained beautifully, but only to, again, once I speak of the guidelines, I should tell you about some structure. Hepatitis B is a DNA virus. 4 important part of the virus are important, which help in giving certain antigens like surface antigen core polymerase. So once you get hepatitis B, it always remains lifelong in your liver. It seeds into the liver in the form of triple coils, triple C DNA, also gets integrated into the host genome. So these are the markers which are there restricted to the liver. What comes out into the blood are, as you can see, the virus as a complete particle, DNA particle. Sometimes the virus may not have nucleic acid, so the empty can be spherical or filamentous. So it is, these are the surface antigens. So you'll always have in access the surface antigen. DNA is there when there is a complete virus particle with DNA into it. So these are the markers, HBsAg and the HBV DNA, which are always in large amount, and we are going to depend upon these 2 markers for the program for screening. So HBsAg is a very good marker, as you can see, so many as compared to the other, which we are going to rely on for the screening and diagnosis. There are certain new markers this cartoon shows, like core-related antigen, various antibodies to core, and if the DNA is not incorporated into the capsid, RNA is there, then these I think the newer markers will be dealt with in a subsequent slide. So in the program, we are going to focus on hepatitis B surface antigen, which is quite in abundance. So it is a good marker. You're not going to miss out infection by screening with HBsAg, and viral load, because your treatment will depend upon having a viremia and removing this infectious viral particle from the blood. So these are the 2 markers we are going to depend. So how are we going to do testing? Overall, the prevalence of hepatitis B in our country is 4%, but each state are going to do their own prevalence studies. If the prevalence is, which I think it's not going to be there in India, less than 0.4, then you should have 2 test policy. But if your prevalence is more than 0.4%, you to stick to 1 test. Now, this is one time one patient walks in, we'll give him 1 test. The test can be a rapid card test, ELISA, or chemiluminescence, depending on whatever you have. Positive, report positive. He has hepatitis B infection, and you are going to move him further into the management care. We'll show you how, and sir has already discussed. And if the state prevalence is very less, which I doubt, then you should have 2 tests. If it is positive, you have to do a second test. And if both are positive, then only report positive. If it is positive, negative, you just have to give it inconclusive. There are certain criteria which they have laid up, that the sensitivity and specificity of the assays that you're going to use for under this program should be of 90 to 98%, and specificity should be very high. The second assay you're using should have a positive predictive value of more than 97%. You can do either second assay can be a confirmatory assay, which is a neutralization based assay, people are not doing normally, or you can use a different RDT or ELISA system to confirm if your prevalence is low in a state. Mostly for diagnosis, the lower limit of detection for recommended for HBsAg by CDSCO is that it should be able to detect, any assay should be able to detect up to as low as 4 international units. But the assays we are using here in ILBS can detect up to 0.05 international units per ml. And for screening, the CDSCO has said that the assay, if you're using for screening, it should have a lower limit of detection of 0.13 international units per ml. This sir has said, so once in the cascade of care, you find a patient who's HbA1c positive, you just have to work up for his cirrhosis status. Cirrhotic, put him on treatment. Non-cirrhotic, I think sir has already explained, so I should not go. So HbA1c is going to be the marker of initial detection of infection. What are the drugs which are available? So here I'm just telling you the drugs, the list, and how to use the entire treatment and management guidelines which are available. They tell you that in co-infection with pregnant females, in adolescent, how to use. The tenofovir, both the combination TDF and TAF will be available under the program, as well as the entecavir. So these are the only drugs which are available freely. They will be available in the program. So I'm sorry for this slide, but then what is going to be a walkthrough of a patient? So a patient, as I told you, can walk in on his own. He's treatment naive, does not know. He comes, you have to get his HbA1c done, then refer him to a treatment center where a doctor can do other investigation. The peer support role is very, very important because he sends to the lab technician draws the blood, and I'll show you what all tests we'll do in the subsequent slides. He can also be treatment experienced. So this program is not that you need only naive. A person can be on treatment and now he wants to be referred. For that, he has to go to the model treatment center, because there the gastroenterologist or physician will have to see. And then if they feel that the drugs which are available in the program, that is the tenofovir and entecavir, can be given, he can be put. So this slide I wanted to show you that there are both the ways a person can walk into this program: a naive on its own, referred by a physician, or a person who's already on treatment and now you want that he should be shifted to the program after the reference of the gastroenterologist at the model treatment center. The hepatitis C virus, it's a much easier virus which is included. It's less complicated. You just have one protein against which the antibodies are formed. The difference there with hepatitis B and HIV is that the HCV, it's not integrated into, does not come into the nucleus, it remains into the cytoplasm. So the clearance of this virus is very, so it is curable. So the current direct acting antivirals which are available, they're pangenotypic. They have shown a potency of attaining the SVR of more than 95%. So that is why the cure is possible and you can. So hepatitis C is a much easier virus to deal with. The antibodies to HCV are an important marker for diagnosis of infection, because once you have an infection, the antibodies remains lifelong. If it is acute, that is only in 20 to 30%, the RNA will disappear within 6 months. But if the RNA persists, the antibodies are there. So the antibodies are going to be an important test in diagnosis of hepatitis C in this program. And in 70 to 80%, they will match with your RNA and active infection. So the markers are, again, of this, as I told you, antibody is a very good marker for hepatitis C. We can test it in the program by rapid CAR test, immunoassays, or any other. If antibody positive, as I shown you, 70 to 80% that they will have an active infection, RNA. You just have to confirm the RNA. You can use qualitative or quantitative. Better to use quantitative, because the lower limit of detection of qualitative are up to the tune of 1,000 only. Genotyping and drug resistance are not, they are only kept for optional cases at the level of the center of excellence, center level, not at all the treatment and testing sites. Core antigen is another marker. This is a marker which comes after the RNA, but much earlier, ahead of the antibody. And if you have earlier, the kits which were available, they were combined antibody and core, but now you have isolated core antigen for HCV available. Unfortunately, only one CLIA-based company is there which has launched this kit. Now, if you have evidence that instead of RNA, you can use core antigen, you have to generate your own local evidence. You can also rely on the core antigen. They have given this option in the program. Simple, you just have to screen a person by one assay, that is antibody to HCV, which I said, antibody to HCV is the marker we are going to rely for diagnosing any kind of infection. If positive, report positive, go ahead and get a PCR done. It can be qualitative, quantitative, and if positive, all positive RNA has to be put on treatment. They have laid down that what should be the qualitative, usually, as I said, the lower limit of detection for qualitative NAT or PCR we use is 1,000, but it is okay because we have seen in treatment naive, the viral load ranges to the tune of 2 log and 3 log. It's never less than 1,000 international units. So you can use a qualitative kit if you do not have money for a quantitative, but there are a lot of quantitative kits available in the market. So, and they can go down up to 15 or 12 international units. So they are a good option. Core antigen is, again, you have to try, you have to test, you have to validate, you can use. This also matches with the clinical sensitivity of 1,000 to 3,000 international unit. But if you do not have facility and you really want, you can do this assay. So this is a simple algorithm which has been given. Antibody, you can do RNA or core antigen. If found to be compatible, you think that it's viremia. You have to compare core antigen, good correlation with RNA as well as in the sensitivity and specificity wise also. However, as I said, that there is only one company and it is a chemiluminescence based assay. So the cost per test is coming out to be 1,000 to 1,500 rupees per test only. We have started this, it's there in our diagnostic algorithm here in ILBS, but with the cost of PCR coming to the tune of 2,000, 3,000 in the program, I don't think so this CLIA based core antigen assay is going to work. They can, WHO can work, or the people can work on developing card-based core antigen, faster, cheaper core antigen. Then this can be a cheaper option to start the treatment in the program. What are the drugs which are available in this program for treatment? So you have sofosbuvir, declatasvir, velpatasvir, ribavirin, which is available. This is just a screenshot of one, but there are all in the management guidelines. They have in detail given to what category of patient, what needs to be given, and which drugs to be given. So these are the drugs which are available, and all algorithm and management guidelines, they clearly define that how to treat hepatitis C with the drugs which are available in the program. The monitoring, once you put the SVR12 is recommended under the program. That is, you give 12 weeks of treatment or 24 weeks of treatment, and then wait for 12 weeks and then do an HCV RNA. So 2 RNAs are permissible under the program, one for the initiation and second at SVR12. No need for an on-treatment lab monitoring. Core antigen as an SVR marker has not been approved because you do not have data, so it is not recommended. Genotyping is not recommended, but only in some treatment combination or resistance workup, only at the Sentinel, center of Sentinel, it will be done, not in most of the cases. So you need to refer from model treatment center to your core referral lab or a state referral lab or a Sentinel referral lab if you want to really work the patient for resistance or genotyping. Otherwise, it is not. So just sorry again for this cluster slide. So walkthrough of the patient can be again treatment naive and treatment experienced also. All can come, because if they have taken few and now they are on the same treatment as I showed you, SOF, DECLA or VELPA. So if they really want to continue, they can enroll into the program. So the program is flexible, that a naive patient can also walk in, or a person who's already in a treatment and now wants a free treatment can get enrolled and can be put onto the program and the cascade of care. Hepatitis E virus infection, there is one marker, IgM-HEV. It matches very good with the clinical sign and symptom. So when you have peak of jaundice, when you have derangement of ALT, HEV IgM is a very good marker by which you can detect. So this is the one we are going to use in the program. For hepatitis A virus, again, HAV IgM has been shown to be a good marker which coincides with the illness and derangement of ALT. So this is the one we are going to use in the program. So this is the actual algorithm they have set up for the testing algorithm for labs, that if you have a patient who is jaundiced, means from the model treatment center, the clinician refers that you have to do a workup for a jaundiced patient. We will do for all 4 viruses, A, E, B, and C. For A, IgM, E, IgM. B, we are going to do HBsAg. Now, this is again in the testing algorithm, which I found they have mentioned IgM anti-HBC, but nowhere. So I'm also a little bit confused, but they have said, probably Dr. Zareen can clarify, because in the test guidelines, they have said that you should do IgM anti-HBC in jaundice patient. But otherwise, in the other program guidelines, they have said HBsAg. But this is what for the labs they have given, that you should do IgM. And then you can report. So if the patient is jaundice, that means acute, you need to do HBsAg and core IgM both. You're going to report positive, negative. If both of them are positive, positive. If one of them, again positive. If both negative, then negative. And then you have to follow him up after 6 months so that you know that he is a chronic, and he can be managed as per the HBsAg positive guideline. For HCV, if it is positive, negative, you straight away have to do reflex RNA and refer him to the care. Hand over the report. Nothing what we are going to do. I think symptomatic just. Now, if the patient is not jaundiced, does not have disease, walking in, just referred, then we are just going to be HCV, as I told, HBsAg. For HCV, we are going to do antibody and report positive, negative, and refer back to the model treatment. HBsAg and 90. Now, so as making these guidelines, making the funds up, and 28 states have already got the fund. They have identified who are going to be their treatment sites. Certain states have got drugs also. So it was, but because of the COVID pandemic, I think all the things got heavier, and no streamline activity and no data and registry is not being maintained that properly, except for few states who are. So what role? We have to find the cases, ref these programs, and make sure that they are being followed up and treated as per the guidelines. What we did for the initiation of this program, we knew that the evidence needs to be presented to our execution of this program. So this patient with FIND and UNITED funded along with WHO, Head Start, that is hepatitis C, elimination, access through diagnostics. This was a project we started from January to September, and we adopted 3 models. Now we wanted to see how it is going to work in Delhi state. So we took care of 5 Delhi district hospitals. We connected them to 15 polyclinics, 3 each. We also conducted the camp screenings. So we wanted to see that which is the best model of retention of care of a patient, whether at the district hospital, or if you're connecting a lot of polyclinics, or you are going into the public doing active screening. So this was what we started. It was for a general population in Delhi. Anybody could walk in, would be referred. Maharishi Valmiki, Sanjay Gandhi, Deen Dayal Upadhyay, Madan Mohan Malviya, and GTB hospitals. The physicians working or the gastroenterologists were involved with us, and the microbiologists were involved with us. Each of the hospital was connected to polyclinic. So it was in the form of hub and spoke model, which we connected. From the camps and polyclinics, the patient was enrolled. Then he was referred to the hospital because entry operator and a lab technician. The blood would be connected. The testing for RDT was done even at the camp and polyclinic to these hospitals. At the hospital, the blood was collected. Immediately it was transported. It was the blood in ice, which was transported the same day. We did RNA, and then we used to return the RNA report within the same day to these hospitals where the physician or gastroenterologist was there. There they did all the other baseline investigation, ultrasound, LFT, and KFT, and they started the patient on treatment. So by day visit 2, the patient was initiated on treatment. We followed them up. We never used to give them drugs for the whole 12 week. We used to call them monthly, and at SVR 12, the results came. So the average number of visits from first encounter, including the camps in the polyclinic, which we found we could start the patient, was 2.4 visits, which is very, very, very low as compared to the global data which is available. We could screen about 37,425 finally, because where all the records were available. The positivity of NT-HCV in Delhi was 2.1%. So this is our prevalence of hepatitis C. The RNA could be done in 91%. This is a good achievement. See how the gap we have, because this was the major drawback we anticipated, but we did RNA in 91%. We could initiate treatment in 493, and ultimately cure, the S was achieved in 96%. So overall SVR we showed in the study was 96% with SOF and Declatasvir. We did not actually, the confidence of the physicians in these 5 hospitals was not that much. So they, I think, themselves did not include the complicated cases. So we had only 21 cases who were, 22 cases who were cirrhotic. Not most of them were non-cirrhotic because it was a general population. Few of them turned out to be. So in decompensated cirrhosis, because the number was less, we found the SVR rate only 66 and compensated 94. However, the overall was 96.3. What it showed was that one-stop shop means if you have these district hospitals, they showed a statistically significant retention in the cascade care from, you can see. So in the polyclinics, the referral, I said that once you screen and then refer them for a blood collection for RNA at somewhere else, you will lose. So we see the RNA test done in the polyclinics was just 55 as compared to from the district hospital. Started on treatment was out of them 74% and completed was good. Screening camp, because we were collecting simultaneously the blood sample for RNA, so the RNA test was done, but then they never came back for treatment. So what is the drawback is of the screening camp is that once it has not been done by a trained doctor in a hospital setting, patient feel that the treatment will not be, it will not work. So most of them opted out from a program for treatment initiation. So what we showed is that your district hospital levels, if you're going to give everything to them, they're really going to retain, and you can complete, and at least for HCV, the cure can be achievable at the district hospital. So this is a one-stop shop policy. There is a good review which has come in Lancet recently, where they have reviewed 142 studies, and they have showed that if you higher rate of linkage in care is there. This is a wonderful review article in which they have shown that, yes, if you provide everything, and it has to be at the hospital. Somehow the screening camp did not work in our study because they could not relate that they can be treated by these screening camp doctors. It has to be a doctor sitting in a hospital. So one-stop shop in the form of, so this is, I think, so this is what we have proposed. It has already gone to the government of Delhi. It is up to them. The budget is going to come and how they're going to. So this is what is a proposed model based upon our success of FIND program, that we want that in a state steering committee should be made. There has to be a state viral hepatitis. We want that there should be 2 model treatment and state lab, one at ILBS, one at LNJP hospital. We can also make at ILBS a core referral lab because we can do drug resistance genotyping. There are 11 districts in Delhi, and we want treatment sites in all these 11 districts. So they will be capacitated for RNA. They can also do their own RNA, or they can send samples to either ILBS or LNJP, and within a day, the same model. However, the screening sites will be many more, 22, we say, that which should do, and then keep on referring the patients to these 11 sites. So more 11 sites, as we have shown, there'll be a very good retention of care. So screening will be only at the polyclinic, but however, the treatment, that is the district hospital, they can do till treatment of uncomplicated. All complicated, however, have to be managed at the model. So this is what we have proposed. Because of the COVID pandemic, things got delayed. We have still not got anything from the government. The funds have not come. We have recruited the manpower. This is how the state, Delhi State National. So I just end now that in order to meet the ambitious targets of 2030 for reduction, it is possible. It is very well possible. We have launched this now. Only thing is that we have to enhance the diagnostics and increase the uptake of testing in the general population. And one-stop shop works best for retention care. You should have one place wherever you provide the instruments, you do the testing, you connect them to a central lab, but decentralized testing and care is the way forward. You can achieve these targets if you have a systemic program in place and connectivity for the retention of care and continuity. Thank you.